Hello, welcome to our first podcast. My name is Kylisha.
My name is Ryan.
We have started this podcast just to kind of share our past experiences and let you know that you're not alone. I think both of us, growing up, we've had this urge and we've always felt like we were alone and we were the only ones that had experienced the traumas and the situations that we were going through. And it kind of wasn't until I went to rehab in 2015 and I started hearing all of my new friends' stories that I actually wasn't alone, and my story I heard over and over and over again from various people in the facility, including my own counselor. So it was very eye-opening for me. Ryan and I decided we wanted to start this podcast probably a year ago. I have just relocated back to British Columbia, so we are reunited, and it feels so good!
So in this podcast, we're going to be diving into topics like parenting, marriage, our past trauma struggles, being a woman, like being a human, really, in so many different aspects that I think so many people can relate on. And even if you're not going through this exact similar experience, maybe there's something that you can take from it which you will resonate with you, right? Whether it be like a self-care tip or like, you know, hearing our story lets you know that, you know, I'm not the only one who's gone through stuff, and we all struggle, whether we put on a happy face and continue on day to day. Like, you would never know what's going on in everybody's life.
Everyone has their own story.
Yeah, that's why they say be kind to everyone, because you don't know what they're going through.
We're going to kick off our first episode. We're going to be talking about relationships. I am married and
I am separated.
So this is a new little chapter for Ryan, but I decided maybe our first episode could be about two masculine people being in a relationship, because I'm very masculine and my husband is very masculine. And we tend to butt heads a lot. And I think with your previous marriage,
yeah, it's definitely a lot of, I feel like not aligned masculine and feminine energy. And I say aligned because I feel like that those energies were shifted where, you know, the man should be masculine and the woman should be feminine. But it was very much so I took on more of those masculine roles and feelings, and he took over time more of those feminine roles. And I feel like that played a big dynamic in some of the issues that we have, and not necessarily meeting eye to eye on everything.
And whereas me and my relationship, I feel like I grew up in a village with very strong women. I just learned, like my parents were not together when I was younger, but growing up, my mom just always did everything. And even like my grandma, even though my grandparents were together, my grandma was always like outside mowing the lawn, doing, fixing stuff, or whatever the case may be. So I tend to be very short with my husband, and if I ask him to do something and if he doesn't do it like right then and there, I'll just do it myself, because I don't want to be let down. And two, in the past, when I would be like, oh yeah, I'll let him do it, I'll let him take his time, he usually forgets, which kind of, you know what I mean?
It's common with men. You tell them 4 or 5 times, they're like, you never told me that. Pretty much I did. Like,
but then the thing is then when I get mad and I do it myself, it's like, oh, you didn't even give me any time to do it.
Exactly.
It's like, I gave you all day to do it.
Right? And then my favorite line is, well, you just didn't give me enough time. I'm like, well, I can't give you a month. Like, yeah, I mean, I asked you. Like, come on. When I say I want it done, I want it done. But maybe that's where my impatience comes from. Like, that's the one thing I know that I share with your husband, is that we're impatient with waiting for certain things and like wanting things done like yesterday. Like, we see the vision, we're like, let's get it done. And like, you're so good at being like, no, take a step back and like, one step at a time.
Evaluate the situation first. Everything doesn't need to be done yesterday.
But that urge feels so...
The instant gratification.
Yes. So with the masculine feminine energy, how do you feel like that affects your marriage, in the sense of like, how do you guys balance, you know, both being very masculine? Are you accepting being more into your feminine energy yet? Or not yet?
I think honestly, it took me a long time to kind of trust my husband, just because of the past experiences and the relationships I had been in. So it took years. Like, we've been together now for going on 14 years, and it took a long time for me to trust him and trust his word and know, like, if he says he's going to do something, damn it, he's going to do it. It may not be what I want him to do it, but he's going to get it done. So to answer your question, maybe in the last like 3 years, I think I've really kind of dived into like my feminine energy. I'm trying to be a little bit more like, okay, I'll let him handle it and stuff like that. But I think too, what helps my relationship is my husband's away a lot. So
that plays a big factor.
Yeah, like he's not here a lot of times to argue with or whatever. So it allows us to miss one another because he's not here, and I'm not always down his back, and he's not always on my ass. Like, oh, well, there's makeup everywhere, or, you know, like, and I do clean up after myself, but again, it's one of those things, like, let's say I cook dinner. I know I'm going to wash those dishes before dinner is done, but in the meantime, I may like run upstairs and do laundry or go wash my hair. Exactly. And then he'll come in and be like, oh my God, there's dishes everywhere. Let's just order takeout, because every time you cook, there's food, there's stuff everywhere. And I'm like, well, no. So I think it's just learning too, is learning each other's boundaries and respecting that.
I feel like it's understanding too. Like, this is how you move, so I gotta learn to move around you or with you in that aspect. But like, even if he's not there, it almost allows you to play out your masculine energy, because you are that masculine and feminine figure in the house with the kids when he's not there. Yeah. So in that sense, you get to keep that part of you and try to let it go when he comes back.
Touche.
I think that's what really probably helps balance that out for you too, because you're like, I'm not stripping everything away at once. I get to still be this independent.
And it's funny because I do tons of research, like, because I do have a YouTube channel, so I do research on that, and I watch.
Check her out.
Yeah, check her out on YouTube. My name is Diddling. It'll show up on the bottom.
So how does your masculine energy with his masculine energy then affect, you know, how you guys move in the relationship in the regards of like responsibilities and like that will trickle over to like parenting and things like that automatically, because you can't have two heads of the household, so to speak, right? Like, you have the king and the queen. The queen's job is to protect the king, right? Like they always say.
I never thought about it like that.
The man is the head, but the woman is the neck, right? So it's like,
very interesting that you said that, because I never thought about it.
You never thought of it that way, right?
There too, yeah. But what I think with Wes and I's relationship is he grew up in a household with both parents, and I find he is very much like, I'm the man, I'm going to take care of the house.
Right, that's how it should be.
Yeah, like, it's funny because we just sold our house in Saskatoon, and the new owner keeps messaging me, and he's like, oh, like, what was this for, was included with your alarm system? And I'm like, I don't know, let me ask Wes. What color stain is it on the deck? I don't know, let me ask Wes.
Yeah.
And at one point I was like, all I did was water the plants. You can't ask me anything because I don't know nothing. Even though he may complain sometimes, like, oh, I have to do he wouldn't have it any other way. Like, even if the garbage needs to be taken out, you can't take it out here the night before, but in Saskatoon, you can take it out the night before. He would get up at midnight, go outside in a t-shirt and his drawers, basically, and take out the garbage if it needed to be taken out. So I think just over the years, it was just understanding and trusting him. But two, what I was going to say earlier was, I've seen this podcast, and they were saying about how men and women are always better their second marriage.
Let's hope.
This lady was saying, like, her and her current husband have been together since they were like 18 or whatever, and she's like, I know now that if we were to get divorced, he is going to be everything I've ever hoped and dreamed
that's
for
what they say.
In his second marriage. And this is Wes's second marriage. And I don't ask questions about his first marriage. Not my business.
That's what you should keep it, though. Because it's like, you know what? He had his past. You have your past. Like, you know, that's there. That's in the past. He is no longer with that person. Clearly for reasons. Move on.
Yeah.
Like,
for sure.
Can't beat a man up for his previous life before he even knew you. right? But I feel like I've seen something a long time ago on TikTok, and the guy said you'll have 3 loves in your life. You'll have your first love, then you'll have the love that you learned from, and then you will have your forever love. The love that you learned from could potentially be your forever love if you guys can learn to work through it and build and continue to grow through all the ish. However, they're usually the ones that you will learn so much about yourself with. You would have grown and been like, okay, this is now what I need, what I want. And your third love will be your forever love. You're like one that sticks and is super healthy, and you're like, this is what I'm looking for.
Well, I think too, like in the past, because money always comes into play, right? Like I feel like
every relationship, it's got to be a factor
for sure. But Wes and I went through a part in our relationship where it was a struggle. Like we didn't have any extra money, and it was finding things like because he was like, we need to start to date ourselves again, and I'd be like,
100.
How are we gonna get a babysitter? A babysitter's too expensive, and I was like, all these things. So it was like, okay, like some nights we just rent a movie. We would just like started to get creative with the ways that we were learning to date one another. And then when Natalia was old enough to go and do her babysitting course, I'm like, okay, we know people on our street. Totally. If we go out for an hour or two, if she needs help, she can go to the neighbor's house or vice versa, right?
Yeah.
Like, so that really helped. And it was like probably, since we bought our house in Saskatoon, that's when things had started to shift. We did go through a little bit of a rocky phase last year, and it was really ugly.
I remember that. But you made it through.
We did.
You made it through to the other side. You guys both put in the work and communicated, and you had your boundaries. I remember that. And you know what? Like, I remember those moments of you calling me and crying and things like that. And I thought my heart would, but like, it shows that God works in mysterious ways. Like, if you really want it, if both people really want it, it's going to happen.
But see, that's the thing though, is I find too, once we're having a little bit of a bump in the road, Wes will be like, hey, let's go to counseling. Let's go on a date. Let's get a sitter for the weekend and let's like, you know what I mean? Like, have a staycation. Let's do something.
Closer together through those
because
trials.
I feel like, and two, because he's away all the time. Like, it took a long time for me to understand and respect, like, okay, he is who he is in his industry. He needs to be away. Like, that's
what the job calls.
That's what it is. But it took a long time because, again, he would be away he's away basically every Monday to Thursday, right? Sometimes Sunday to Thursday. And then he'd come back and I would be with the girls all week and dealing with the attitudes and the lunches and the taking them to activities.
Everything.
And I didn't have anything left in my cup to give him. So I would be a complete asshole and a bitch all the time, right? And then it was like, he was like, okay, well, and then he started to switch it up and he's like, okay, I'm only going to be every other week. That way I'm here to help you. But what would irritate me for a long time, I think it was like probably a little bit of jealousy, was he would be away and everything that I did for these girls over the last week and everything would be forgotten about. My dad's here. Yeah, and you'd bring home a chocolate bar or bring home a Starbucks for them and they would be like, I love you. Even when we went out with my aunt the other day for dinner and they were fighting over who gets to hold his hand walking down the street. And I'm like, he has 2 hands. It's not the end of the world.
That's what kids do.
This is the thing though, is in his mind, he's like, I'm going to be everything for these girls so that way they don't fall in love with the first guy that shows them any attention.
They'll know what to expect.
Exactly. Their standards are going to be so high. And he's like, so either their standards are going to be so high and they're going to meet this ideal, like, perfect guy, or their standards are going to be too high. Everyone's going to be like, they're too high maintenance. I don't want to be with them. And I'm like,
it will keep them away.
You're going to be taking care of these girls till they're freaking 50.
But I think that's like, that is so good for him to show because, you know, for me, growing up without my dad around, it was just my mom, and my mom was my everything, like a single parent my entire life. And even when my dad was in my life, he popped in, he popped out when he felt like, because he had his own ish going on in his own life. And, you know, I feel like that affected me for sure of how I looked at relationships and how I like handle relationships. And especially when it came to choosing a partner when I was younger, it was very much attachment to the first guy that showed me any kind of genuine attention, but avoided the red flags. that were clearly there, avoiding gut feelings. They're saying like, nope, don't move this way, don't do that. And I still was like, no, I'm going to do it anyways. It's great. We're sunshine and rainbows. And you know what? I've learned now 10 years later, like, you should have listened to your gut 10 years ago. But everything happens for a reason. You just continue to grow through it. But, you know, when you're like, oh, it's fun because, you know, it's kind of, it hurts when the kids are like all over West when they come back because they've missed them, they haven't seen them. I feel the same way having to co-parent and like, you know, that saying of like a Disneyland dad, the kids see him on the weekends.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh my God, I love Dad's house. It's so much fun.
Can we move in with him?
Exactly. It's like, all you have to do is have fun there. It's the weekend.
There's no rules.
Like, yeah, when you come back, we got school, we got extracurriculars, we've got chores, homework. Like, you have all the ish that I'm doing for you on a day-to-day basis. And I look back and I'm like, Mom, I'm so sorry. Like, I appreciate everything that you did before because I didn't realize how much work went into raising me and taking care of
But
the
on
house.
the plus side, though, like, you're so lucky because you've had your mom here with you every step of the way. Both of your parents are
Well,
here.
not to remember. My mom was gone.
Oh, right.
Like, for
but it was
a good
only
year
for
and
a
a
year.
bit. But that was my hardest year,
Yeah.
initial year of splitting up. And it was, like, at the beginning, very lonely.
Yeah.
Right? It was very lonely just trying to navigate it myself and adjusting to being, like, a single parent now with 2 kids.
Yeah.
Right?
True.
And I went from being with my mom, living with my mom as a teenager, to getting married and living with a husband. And I had never lived with a man before in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a rude awakening. Rude awakening.
You should have read the red flags then.
I should. And you know what, though? I will say, even then, I took my vows seriously because I seen those red flags, but it was for better or for worse. And in my head, I was like, well, this is the worst right now, so let's just keep trucking. I've made my bed and now I gotta lie in it.
And he showed you it could get worse.
We're here now. Free at last.
When we moved to Grand Prairie, we didn't have anyone there. And I remember moving there and it was snowing in like the end of September. And I was like, oh my God, where am I? I have no family, no friends. Because I am not the type of person that's going to go to a mommy and baby group and be like, oh, let's be friends. No. My circle is my let's say 5. I'll make it a full circle. Not 4.
Make it a full circle.
No, I have 5 good.
That's because on a good day, you got your rested bitch face right over here. Don't touch me.
But I just found it like really hard because then we only had Natalia. And yeah, it was easier with only having 1 kid. But at the same time, it was very, Wes is away, right? He has to work. He has a branch up and 2 hours away. So if Natalia got sick, anything, it was me that had to stay home. And that started to affect my work performance.
Yeah.
And then I started getting in shit at work. And I was like, at one point I was like, I just want to be a stay-at-home mom because
it's not.
I'm tired of, and I was like, I'm tired of like saying, oh, my kid's sick, my kid's sick, my kid's sick. Fuck, kids get sick. But for some reason, these managers, because it's always men in these roles, your wives have been taking care of the freaking kids, right?
You know what? I had a female manager tell me once, too, because it was at that point where, you know, I have 2 kids. They're in daycare, kids are in school. They get sick really, as we know, all the time. But because, you know, my ex made more money than I, it was like, well, it's smarter for him to continue to go to work and get his paycheck and not lose up the hours than it is for me. And it would be like, well, can't your husband take the time off? It's like, no. At the end of the day, he makes more. So if it's going to be a parent, it's going to be me. Like,
yeah.
And I'm like, you're a mom and you're a single mom. So like, you have to understand that if your kid's sick, like, I can't do that. That's not at work. Back to our roles. So do you feel that there are gender roles or are all roles neutral? Like, so you think back to our grandparents' age, okay? Perfect example. Back then, the men went to work. Their job was to bring money home to pay for stuff. That's pretty much where their job ended, was that, right? Or protect the family, I guess. Women, every other aspect, whether that is the gardening outside, or the child rearing, everything else was women's job. But now you see a lot of men wanting equality in those roles when it comes to finances. They want women to pay 50% of the bills. They want them to still clean and cook and take care of the kids and, you know, look good, go to the gym, get your hair done, your nail, like literally this, everything. But then yet when women are like, well, can you do a dish? Or can you sweep or vacuum or do something, take your kids to a park so I can have a moment? It's like, oh, but that's not my job. Well, okay, but you can't have me pay half the bills and half of everything and still maintain everything else. And you don't do that. Like, you need to either pay for everything and supply everything, or you're doing 50-50 of everything.
Yeah.
Like, you can't
including taking the kids to the damn park.
Oh, Mendy.
I honestly only just started hearing about this whole 50-50 thing in relationships. So more so like, yeah, when you're in a, let's say you're boyfriend and girlfriend or whatever.
Well, that's kind of like...
Yeah, like you split everything. But I find too, I don't know if it's because a lot of men are insecure, let's call them, or they don't like the fact that their spouse is making more money than them.
If I made a shit ton of money, right, and my husband didn't make as much money, fine. I'm fine with, like, I know I can do it, so I'll cover bills and stuff like that. But that means instinctively that role is switched. And that means when I'm working and I'm grinding, you're at home dealing with stuff. Like, it can't be both ways. I'm sorry.
No,
it can't be both ways.
No.
I can't be, like, paying for everything, and you still expect me to come home. Like, I'm still going to be a mom and do my thing, but, like...
Absolutely, because then if he's at home, he's going to be taking care of all the shit that needs to be done at home. If the dog needs food, you're going to be doing all the damn grocery shopping. You'll be doing everything.
But then, does that now affect your masculine and feminine energies?
I don't think so.
No?
Because there's a trade-off. I don't, in my
opinion... You don't
think
the man wants to be that, like...
Well,
provider?
sorry, but you can't have your cake and eat it too at the end of the day.
Fair. I enjoy being single. I enjoy my own space, my own time, figuring out myself. I've got a lot of projects in the works for my own self. They say, like, if you don't have a direction, your direction's yourself. My direction is myself right now, right? So, I'm good. You know, being married for 10 years is like, I'm good with a break. I'm good to continue to have a break. It's been 10 years. And I'm still in therapy for it.
Since you're going to be on your next, let's say, marriage, you're going to know exactly what you're looking for. You're going to know all those red flags.
I'm paying attention. I'm paying attention.
Exactly. But I think, too, like, a lot of times, I don't know if it's just the women in our communities, but it's like, oh, I don't want to die alone, right? And that's the only thing I'm scared of for my mom, is her rushing out. Not rushing out because she's known this person for years, but just how quick it feels in my mind, because I found out at the same time everyone else found out about this engagement. And I'm just like, I don't know if you're rushing it because, yeah, you're pushing 70 and...
Your mama ain't no pushing no 70 years old.
She's in her 60s.
She is not.
Yes, she is.
She be looking good then. I didn't even think
she's like 65.
No.
Get my calculator!
She is not even that. No, she is not. God, that means she's only 3 years older than my mom. She's still in her 50s. Or like, no, early 60s.
Hold on.
Look at us looking like a bunch of fools.
Oh, she's 61. Never mind. She's not pushing 70. Now I know why she gets mad at me when I say she's almost 70. Because she's only 60.
You put a decade on her.
Like, obviously, she's been praying about this, right?
But think about it, though. If she's 61... The woman's like, yeah, what am I waiting for? My kids are grown. My kids, I got nothing to do with them no more. Let me... So, do you feel that your masculine energy that you came into the relationship with Wes, initially robbed him of his masculine energy?
I think in the beginning it did, because he would just let me push and wheelbarrow right over him all the time.
I remember Wes. I remember when, God bless his soul, I love Wesley, I really do. But I remember when you guys first started dating, and he literally would just do whatever you told him to do. And I'm like, dude, get a backbone. Like, what are you doing? This woman is going to bulldoze. You cannot handle her. But he held in there, man. He held strong, and I am proud of him now. How far he's come. He's found his voice. Because I'm not even going to be, it's not even, I don't want to bring like the cultural aspect in it in that sense, because it's not even about being necessarily a black woman, but there are aspects of just being a black woman and an independent Black woman.
I think that scares a lot of people, though.
Handle.
No, exactly. And I think that scares a lot of men. Everything is always materialistic, right? Like, I don't make enough money to be able to keep up with you. But it's like, there are other things you can do that don't include money. Mm-hmm. It's about dating each other. You can make a picnic. You can go for a drive.
Amen.
You can give her a massage. You can go on Pinterest and look up 101 ways of how to do this shit for free.
And that is the thing that I struggled, I think, in my marriage, was that over the course of 10 years, I'm a hopeless romantic. Give me a nice bouquet of flowers, like randomly, or like a note, or like anything, like something small. It does not have to be crazy or grandiose, but it was like, I would always be the one who would be like doing all the romantic gestures. I would be the one who would like add the romantic dates, the picnics, like everything. It would be me coming up with dates, planning dates. And I'm like, dude, it would be nice if you just planned a date once.
And they say if your man cannot plan a date, he cannot plan a future.
Well, okay, so I'm in therapy because, you know what, after all the being married for 10 years and going through all that, I want to be as healthy and like as much of a green flag for whoever comes my way next. And you know what? I have learned that like if I give you opportunities to lead me and then I see that you've led me down the wrong path or like in the shits, I can't now trust you to continue to lead me in the path that I feel like our family and us need to get, because I'm going to make decisions that are based on what's best for the family unit and not just myself. But then I find that some men want to think they're doing that, but realistically they're not. They are making decisions based off of how they feel with the situation. And how they want to move it. And I'm like, that's not how we lead it. No. That's not, you got to think of a whole, right? And it's just like, I don't know. I'm learning through therapy that it's just, you got to take a step back and you've got to look at those signs of like, what is he bringing? How does he move? Like I have a lot of dreams. I'm very ambitious. And that's one thing that I will say my ex, he said he was good with it. But every time I come up with a new idea or new thing that I'm trying to do, it's like, okay.
Questions it.
Right. Questions it. Or it's like...
But then, too, he would always be like, oh, are you doing this so you could meet somebody else? And then his insecurities started to come.
That's a whole other topic right there.
Whoa! I just want to be happy. I would love to be happy with you.
But it ain't happening. I remember sharing one time, real estate goals with my ex-couple, my father-in-law previously. We were there and he just looked at me and was like, yeah, okay. Like literally shook me off and was like, as if you could make that happen. Okay.
Well, look at me now,
And the thing is, it's like, honestly, all of you out there, if you're struggling or you left someone, just know those are seeds for like something new. Come from the ashes like a phoenix, man, because a year without being in that marriage, I glowed up so freaking much. Like,
and you're in a much better,
so much.
You're exactly. That's the thing too. Is I remember at one point you're like, I can't do this on my own. Like, he makes more money than me, but look at God.
Yeah.
Honestly, this is so off topic, but I was driving from Alberta to BC, and I was driving through those mountains, and I got so emotional because I'm like, God is just telling me like, look at how your life was. Look at how far you have come. And I just couldn't believe it because honestly, like moving back to BC was just something that never felt like it was ever feasible for me.
Right.
Never in a million years. And then when Wes was approached about this job, we thought it wasn't going to be until next year. And then everything just started working. And it was working like double time. And I'm like, I am not ready to move yet.
Hold the brakes, you're dragging me along.
But then I had to just accept it. I'm like, this is happening so quick for a reason. And like, just the struggles that like Natalia was going through. And I think she was going through like a huge identity crisis in Saskatoon. Because again, and I always tell my kids like, no one looks like us. And I don't know if that may tie into, like, do they feel alone? Do they feel like, because she wouldn't even wear her hair curly ever.
She's trying to get rid of, like, her natural.
Yeah, like she would just brush it out. Yeah, brush it out, and her hair would be frizzy all the time. And I'm like, but now everyone's like, oh, your hair's so pretty. And
because it is. It's so curly and it's so luscious.
And now she's, like, learning to accept it. But, like, even the, like, the, just the mental state I find they're both in now compared to...
It seems a lot healthier.
Yeah, it does. And don't get me wrong, like, we love Saskatoon, but it was just that school. Hold on, there's a mosquito there. I gotta go kill it.
No, they're definitely in a better mental state and a better mindset, for sure, than what they were before. And I feel like you guys all seem to be adjusting well here.
And two, it was... My kids have never... Like, I know, not that they've never been around family and cousins and stuff like that, but I just felt... And I kept, like, my husband kept talking about Saskatoon, and he's like, I don't want to die here. I don't know anybody here. He just, like, went there.
I don't want to die here.
I don't.
Wes, you're still young. What do you mean die?
Like, I don't want, I don't know. He just, like, all of a sudden, like, I want to be back with my family. Like, his family's here. Like, you guys are here. And I was like, I would just hate for something to ever happen to either one of us. And my kids don't have a relationship with my family just because of how close I am with everybody.
Well, we know you. But I am happy, and that was the first thing Wes said to me. He was like, I know it's been 12 years, but I finally brought her back to you. I'm like, I know, thank you. I've been waiting for so long.
But I just feel like, even for us, because we've always been like, oh, who are we going to get to watch the kids when they were, like, there would be no overnight stay. And I remember even phoning your mom, and I was like, hey, for my birthday, would you mind? I don't mind paying you. And she's like, called me all mad. Why on earth would you pay me? And I'm like, okay, fine, take your niece. I appreciate you. I think that kind of wraps up this podcast.
We've definitely totally
hit all the...
We've kind of veered, but that is us. We will veer. We will come back.
We will kill mosquitoes in the process. So we want to thank everyone for watching. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We will post all of our handles on the side here. Our, what do we have? Instagram, TikTok,
YouTube.
And YouTube. So thanks again for watching. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And we will see you guys in our next podcast.
Bye, pod.
I've been all in my phone, I got options. And I don't wanna tell you to drop it, but I don't wanna play your fair. Yeah, something that makes me look at you too often. Oh, baby, you can give it something.